Hello everybody, got something a little bit different for you today. This is about lighting, the studio. So it turns out quite a few of you enterprising folks make videos of your own. I didn't think anybody else did, I thought it was just me, but apparently other people make videos as well. And I thought it was high time that I showed you my studio setup. It's changed a few times, mainly because I've moved from area to area and finally settled on this. The hardest part, I think, of setting up a home studio is to get a lighting solution that is affordable, easy to use, flexible, safe, quiet. These are all things that it has to be. Let's assume for a minute that you're making YouTube videos. There are basically three components to lighting your home studio. You want light that is going to illuminate you because they need to see who's talking. So you'll have a primary light or two on you. The second part of the lighting setup needs to be lighting for your background. Depending on what your background is, you may in fact not want lighting for your background, but I'm going to assume for now that you do, because that's what I use, and I'll show you what I do. Now, I do plenty of lighting setups where I don't have a lit background, or I may have some light on in the background that shows up under its own illumination, but today we're going to talk about my specific studio setup. The third kind of light is a light that is only on when I need it, and that is going to be a light for my table. When I'm trying to demonstrate something, and it doesn't mean necessarily this table, it could be the shooting platform back in the other room. Whatever it is I need you to see has to have its own separate light source. But the main star of the show is always going to be the light that falls on you. I say main star, what I really mean is if that is off, if that isn't working and you're too dark or too bright, your video is not going to look good any way you cut it. You can get away with a background that's a little too bright or a little too dark. Even the stuff that's going on your table can be a little bit off. But if the light that's falling on you is wrong, it's a problem. So what are the criteria for a good studio light? These days, probably the most accurate light and the safest option is LEDs. LEDs are bright. The white these days is about as good as you're going to get. Most of them have very high CRIs, so that they render color naturally. That means they're full spectrum white light. Not as full spectrum as a flash maybe, but probably a more full spectrum than most incandescent sources. They don't have the same kind of risk as an incandescent source in that they're not boiling hot and require multiple fans. They're also not noisy like bright incandescents. So it's always been my option to use LED of some kind. Now, in the past, I've used mostly LED panels because they are convenient, they're flat, they put out a nice even light. Most of them have built-in diffusion, they're quiet, but they lack a certain something. And what I switched to some time ago for my primary light was a continuous LED light source that was more of a spotlight. And it's a spotlight that I modify so that the light is softer and more natural appearing. It is the Sutefoto P100Bi. Not buy as in that's it, that's all I had to tell you buy, but buy as in Bicolor, B-I. So it's the Sutefoto P100Bi. The 100, of course, means that it puts out 100 watts of light, but it is a cool, running, and heat-protected light source. It does have a fan that cools the chip, and it is a cob or a chip-on-board light. The element that produces the light in this P100 is the bead, as they call it, the actual chunk of semiconductor and the fluorescent material over the top of it. actually has the electronics built into that bead. It allows it to be more efficient, give you a better, truer light, and also keep it cooler. Like most good lights these days, it has 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi built in. It also has Bluetooth built in, which means you can use it with a remote. And I think you know now that I don't like using remotes with these lights, but you can also use your phone, which I do like. So it will connect to the phone app with your Bluetooth. And it's the same phone app that we used before to great success with panels and with the multicolored wands that are also Sutefoto. So they've got some really cool stuff, and it all operates from your phone, which is super nice. So these are 24-volt lights, so they have a big brick of a power supply, but they also operate off the Sony NPF cells, which is super convenient, which makes this a very portable, very bright light. The color temperature is, again, like all Sutefoto products, crazy spread out, all the way from 2800 Kelvin to 10,000. So that is really a span. The light can be very warm, it can be very blue, very cold. But it's also very bright. You can adjust the brightness from 0 up to 100%. And somebody's going to ask me how many luxes or candelabras or something that is. I don't know. It's really bright. I'll look it up though, and I'll tell you. It's got a lovely big LCD screen. It has non-volatile memory, so it remembers your settings when you shut the thing down. When you put it back on, it works. It has only 2 modes. CCT, which is where you can correct the color temperature and the intensity of the light. I think you already know how I feel about the second mode after CCT that this light has. It's the special effects mode, and yes, it is flashy lights. In fact, as far as I can tell, it's the same exactly as the other Sutefoto lights, only they're RGB and these aren't. So it's just black and white flashy lights. Enough said. I do not use a light like this by itself. It would be a little harsh. And I have used them by themselves without any kind of modifier when I've been lighting the background, but I find them a bit harsh for that too. So as you can see here, what I use is a big homemade scrim. This is just a frame of 1x2s set up with a stretched out double layer of tracing paper across the whole thing. It takes the light and spreads it out, makes it soft and even, and it's very pleasing. So if you're going to use a light like this, think about getting some kind of a modifier. You can just stretch a sheet over a frame, or not even have a frame, just hang a sheet there. Just don't get the light too close, because they do get a little warm if you're right on top of it. Like most modern lights, it can be synchronized with a whole bunch of other lights using the whatever synchronization system you have. This will work with it. It also has a mounting system that is a full-size Bowens system. So whatever Bowens accessories you have will work with this light, which is real handy if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a new set of Bowens stuff. I have Bowens softboxes and diffusers that work great with it. I mentioned the color rendering index. It's high, it's 96. And it also has the software built in for, I think it's 12 separate channels and 6 groups, which just means you can use it in a setting where other people are using remotes and not get your stuff mixed up with theirs, which is good. There are a couple of potential problems with it, but I'm reluctant to say much about them because they didn't turn out to be problems. The circuitry has a very aggressive thermal protection mode, which worried me, because what'll happen is at a certain temperature, if the chip gets too hot, if it's on for too long, it will dim the light, and it dims the light considerably. Well, that prolongs the life of the light, and it prolongs the life of the chip. But it kind of screws up your video if you're halfway through. So I have had this light on for hours at a time, waiting to witness the thermal shutdown. And because I haven't been running it at 100%, but running it like I am now at 65%, which is more than enough, It's never come on. So I don't know how it would interfere with my video. I don't plan on using it at 100%. I don't need it. Even if I pulled it way back, I couldn't have it at 100%. It would be too bright. If the fan comes on, I can't hear it. I haven't heard it yet. So that is fantastic. I'm glad that that's not been an issue. There is a parts list that comes with this light that has 2 parts on it that have names that I think you need to be aware of. There is part number 7 is called the cooling hole. It's a grid on top that lets the air come in. Part number 8 is even better. It's the handheld handles. What other kind of handles are there? The controls are super easy. The dim button is the button that switches between special effects and the CCT. So it'll always be in CCT. And when you twiddle the button, it changes the brightness. The second button, which is the set button, when you twiddle that, it changes the temperature. And that's it. That's all you've got to know. 2 buttons, and they work. The special effects involves pressing other buttons that I simply forbid you to do. So you're going to be good on that. The setup itself is fairly straightforward, and I'll walk you through what that is. The other lights in my setup consist of panels. Now I have 2 Sutefoto light panels that I use for my backdrop. These are also controlled from the same app, so it makes it very easy for me to adjust the light that I see on the monitor to where I get the balance just exactly what I want. And I put one on my right side to catch this set of shelves. I have one just dedicated to the bookshelf there. And they're both, I run those both at fairly low power and a little bit warmer than I do the studio light itself. The third light is also a panel. This is from a different company. I use a Niwa panel. I would use a Sutefoto panel if I had another one, because I love these things. They run cooler than the Niwa. But the Niwa is not on right now, but it is normally lighting the desk in front of me. And it just puts a big, warm blob of light right where my camera is or whatever it is I'm showing you. It's very convenient. It's easy. It gets hotter than the Sutefoto panels, so I don't leave it on. There's no reason to leave it on. And I have this light here, which is my BenQ reading light, my absolute favorite insect preparation light, by the way. I wouldn't, I'd give up my camera before I gave up this. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. They'd be equally important to me. But anyway, the main light, the primary light that I use to light myself, is coming from the Sutefoto P100, which I run at about 65%. 65% is more than enough. If I go much higher than that, it gets a little bit glary. But because I use a nice thick scrim with a double layer of tracing paper, it usually doesn't cause any kind of problems. I run the temperature a little bit, well actually right now I think I have it at 5700, but it's not unusual for me to run it a bit cooler, depending on the time of day, how much light is coming into the studio and so on. But at this time of day, which is in late evening and it's pretty dark outside, this setting is perfect. And to be able to do this with just one light that is very cool, that doesn't have an audible fan going, is fantastic. And I've been super happy with this light. If you're interested in getting one of these for your own studio or for your workshop or wherever you need a big wall of light, then now's the time to get one, because they cost $230 most of the time. But there is a link in the show description that includes a 22% discount, so you can get one of these amazing lights for $179, which is a deal. It comes in a big case with the reflector thing, all the cables you need, plus the charging brick. I don't think it comes with a remote control, but I don't use it. I use the phone app, and yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good light. I love it. It's great for the studio, and somebody just complimented me the other day on the lighting in the studio. So that's not me, that's Sutefoto. So that's all I have. Now you know how my studio is lit, at least until the next time I see you. I don't know what's coming up next. It'll be good, or I'll think it's good. if that counts. Hey, one other thing. If you're not a member of Patreon, do you know what you're missing? Long, early, ad-free videos, extra videos, live stream events like the one coming up this Saturday with Pauline Ackerlin, who for a living photographs space rockets taking off and for fun photographs macro. Seriously. Coming up the next month, we have one of the world's most famous mixomycetographists. I made that word up, so I know that that is how it is pronounced. She photographs myxomycetes, which are slime molds, which are not as disgusting as they sound. In fact, they're unbelievably, endlessly fascinating and weird alien organisms. So if you want to know how to photograph them, how to find them, how to keep them alive, how to do all those things that you need to do if you're a myxomycetographist, then you need to join the live stream, which is going to be on the 13th of August. That's just round the corner too. Just join Patreon, then you can look at the calendar and know what's going on and be part of it. Otherwise, you're not part of it and you're left out of it, which is sad. It shouldn't be that way. So come over to Patreon, you'll be glad you did. So here is your homework. Go buy a Sutefoto P100Bi video light because you need one. And number two, with what you have left over from your savings, which will be enough, go over to Patreon and join so that you do not miss any of the live streams I told you about. You do not miss the early, ad-free, extended bonus content that you're also currently missing. So go over to Patreon and do that, and that will be your homework complete until next time. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, be well. Myxomycetographist, myxomycetographist, myxomycetographists.